We are going to get started. I'm so excited this evening. I have a very special guest, an experienced adjuster who is going to give us a lot of golden nuggets. Shauntel Kerr is our expert speaker for April, and I am excited to have you, Shauntel.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. When I saw you asking to see if any adjusters wanted to chime in, I was like, oh, this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of help spread some knowledge and, just help other adjusters out because there's so many questions and I'm happy to
Absolutely.
be here.
Absolutely. Again, there are so many questions. In fact, I started a YouTube channel several months ago, and I have over 200 videos just for new adjusters
Wow.
to just answer different questions and just give knowledge about different aspects of the industry. So it's really important because a lot of them are trying to get into our industry and they just don't know the nuts and bolts of it. And
Yeah,
this industry is not for the weak at heart. So
I
so
completely agree. And I appreciate what you're doing. It's definitely going to help a lot of adjusters, get their foot in the door and, help them understand what they're doing on a deeper level. So thank you so much for
absolutely,
this.
absolutely. So again, welcome and just a little bit about our community. Be a Claims Adjuster is a community for new adjusters, and I started it just a few short months ago to help adjusters feel comfortable in a small community, and so that I can help them as much as I can and bring in new experienced adjusters to just feed them information so that they can be successful like we are. So I appreciate your time and we're going to get started. So
Awesome.
my favorite question, and it's one that is highly searched in like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and that question is, tell me about the day in the life of a property or liability adjuster.
Okay. So typically for me, a day in my life would be coming into the office and well, my virtual office because I work remotely.
Okay.
And then checking my diary system. That is pretty much the first thing that I do when I log into work. I check my diary system to see if there are any reminders or anything that I need to work on first thing in the morning. And when I say diary system, it's basically a calendar
Mhm.
that every adjuster has to keep them on track with their claims because you could be working up to 100 claims at sometimes and that can get very daunting and confusing and you may not know what needs to be done to push that claim to the next step. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I like to set my diary system up every time I touch that claim, I like to put a reminder on on that file to let me know what I need to do next. And so at the end of every day, I kind of check to see what my diaries are going to be for the next day. And when I come in to the office, I like to tackle that first and foremost. Once I kind of get those tasks out of the way, whether it's paying an invoice or maybe contacting an attorney to, get some additional documentation, once I complete those tasks, then I'll go on to see what I can do to push my other claims forward. So I like to work off of an Excel spreadsheet or even a Google Doc
Okay.
where I will, list all of my claims out. Like right now, I have about 70 to 80 claims and, I like to have those listed out so that I know exactly what needs to be done on those files. And I might have set a reminder for myself the day before to say, okay, well, after you're done, with your diary tasks, you can move on to these things, contacting maybe a public adjuster to see if we can work on a negotiation or making a phone call to an insured to, keep them up to date on what's going on with their claim, keeping that communication open.
Mhm.
Sometimes if I may have a meeting with my manager, I'll, set that reminder as well. So it's really just coming in and making sure that I'm pushing those claims to the next level and that they're not just sitting there with nothing, happening on them and me, being abreast of everything that I have to do for that day. It can be pretty laid back, but if and I try not to set too many diaries for myself for one day because
Mhm.
you don't want to have so many tasks that you become overwhelmed or that you can't actually accomplish everything that you're setting for yourself. So kind of just keep a good, number of activities to accomplish in that day. And then once you have those things accomplished, you can kind of move on to the next task to see, what can be done to push that claim towards closure. Making phone calls and things like that. And, that's a typical day.
Right.
Yeah, it's a
So what
typical
would
day
be
for me.
an atypical day?
An atypical day would probably be dealing with an unhappy insured. The type of claims that I'm working now, working claims actually for insolvent insurance companies. So insurance companies that have actually gone out of business or bankrupt. So a lot of the
Oh,
claims that I actually have are several years old. I have claims that go back to 2019.
wow.
So yeah, so a lot of times you know, we get reopened claims. Say, for instance, if we have maybe issued an undisputed payment and they're coming in for recoverable depreciation, and maybe they've been trying to get in contact with somebody for a while, and then they finally got me, and they could be really upset about that because you know we're kind of holding up their money at that point. So
Right.
just kind of dealing with a disgruntled insured, that's not typical for me, but sometimes it does happen in those, one-off cases, or maybe a policy might change and then that will kind of throw things off a little bit and then you have to adjust to a new procedure or something like that. Maybe requesting authority, they might throw a monkey wrench in there and say, hey, this process is changing from here on out. And there's like, oh Lord, now I have to go back and, change my process. So just kind of being prepared for anything. It's very important to be fluid in this industry and, being aware that things can change at the drop of a dime. So just, making sure that you're staying on top of those things and, being prepared for anything. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So interesting. So, are the insureds, so it sounds like you're saying that, the insurance company have gone out of business.
Yes.
So is this like a TPA?
Yes. So it's actually, I'm not sure if you heard of FIGA or LIGA. So FIGA is basically Florida Insurance Guarantee Association.
Okay.
And whenever an insurance company goes out of business in Florida, FIGA will pick those claims up, no matter how old they are, whatever active claims they have in their system, they're going to pick them up and then we're going to actually take over those files. So it's a nonprofit organization, but we do a lot of the same insurance function as an insurance company would. So that's kind of how that comes into play. And with Florida and LIGA, which is Louisiana,
Oh,
they have a
okay.
lot of hurricanes and things like that. So by the time I get a claim, 3 or 4 storms could have already hit that one home while they're still waiting for, their first claim to be settled. They could have additional damages. So it can get pretty confusing sometimes just because you're kind of paying for damages you may or may not owe for, but because they've actually been waiting so long to get paid for a claim from 2019, and then,
Right.
maybe Hurricane Irma came through, in 2022 or 2023, and, now they have additional damages from that storm.
Right.
So, yeah, so, sometimes that can happen and you're dealing with unhappy people and I can understand why they would be unhappy because they've been
Right.
waiting for so long and it can be very stressful, but I try to keep the lines of communication open with them so that they know exactly what my role in this process is and that I'm going to get the claim resolved for them and they know that they can call me or email me at any time. I think that that really helps get them through that process, just being open with the communication.
Absolutely. And since they've lost the carrier, are they given any special provisions or? Is there any special like exclusions or anything in their policy that is taken into consideration because the carrier that they were with has now, gone out of business? Or is the
Not
policy the same?
necessarily.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, not necessarily. We still use the policy that they had in force when the
Okay,
date of loss occurred. So
okay.
we go by that policy. And I would say that when it comes to negotiating, we're a little bit more lenient than a carrier would be, just knowing that the claim is so old. And so we have a little bit more leeway when it comes to negotiating, like with the attorneys and the public adjusters and things like that. We want to be fair.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I would say in that aspect, typically with a carrier, you're not really doing too much negotiating. You're kind of just, paying what the policy says and that's it. But we have a little bit more leeway with that. So yeah, but we do stick to the policy that was in
Okay,
place.
okay.
Yeah.
So for our new adjusters, are there any other tips or tricks that you can share with them that would help them manage their desk? And then for some of our new adjusters, they have not even gotten their first deployment. So
Right.
any like quick tips that you can give them?
I would say the things that have helped me the most is staying organized. Get that Excel spreadsheet out as soon as you get your claim load. One deployment that I went on, the very first day, I was thrown 100 claims. So I get right to organizing. As soon as I get those claims, I list them all out. I list out my claim number. I list out the name of my insured, their contact information, and any applicable information that I might need for them just at a quick glance.
Right,
And once I have that list created, I just start contacting my insureds immediately to let them know I have received your claim. I am the adjuster that's going to be handling your file. I ask them all the relevant questions, based on the first notice of loss and the type of damages that they might have sustained to their property. I
mhm,
set my expectations. I let them know exactly what's going to happen. If I need to assign a field adjuster out there to go and inspect those damages, I will do that and let them know that on that phone call that, someone will be contacting them in order to, come and do that inspection. And once I, have all the relevant questions asked regarding their loss, I like to, you know, document everything correctly.
mhm,
Document every time I touch a file, I'm putting my notes in.
mhm.
For new adjusters, sometimes you're not going to get that extensive training that you might think that you're going to get when you go on a deployment. They may just kind of throw you in there and say, hey, you got to figure this out.
Yes,
And, and unfortunately, that is the reality of some deployment situations that, you're just expected to kind of jump in and know what to do. They might throw you a few guides and say, this is how you need to do this. And you need to read that and understand it. And don't be afraid to ask questions, make friends,
right.
make friends with your fellow adjusters so that you can bounce information off of them. I like to tell people coming into this, don't suffer in silence. Use your resources.
Absolutely.
If they have a knowledge base set up for you, make sure that you're searching the terms that you need to find in that knowledge base. And if you've exhausted, all of those, terms that you can't find the information, try to lean on a fellow adjuster to see if maybe they know. But don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to jump in and get the information that you need. Is only going to make you a better adjuster and help you in the long run.
Absolutely, and that's, some of the stuff that I also tell them. My first few deployments, like you said, you don't know what you don't know, and you have to
Right.
learn. So I always connect and network. That is
Yes.
just extremely important. And then, connecting and making those friendships and helping each other out,
Yeah.
bouncing ideas or things off on each other's head. Cause like the IA firms, honestly, they're gonna give you, like you said, just the guidelines and specifics to that carrier, but they don't have time to really babysit you,
Right.
so they want you to get in there and hop and get the job done. And especially
Absolutely.
you can get, like you said, 50 claims in a day. I've seen it right now. Well, I've been on this deployment for about a month and a half. And
Hmm.
in the beginning, I got, because I got a lot of reassignments, 40
Yeah.
claims. So I had to go in there and get everything organized, just like you said.
Yeah, when you get those reassignments, those are tough too because you're working behind someone else. And
Absolutely.
so, sometimes when I get a reassignment, the insured is complaining about the previous adjuster, like, oh, they never called me and I could
Right.
never reach that person. You got to kind of clean that up. So,
Right. And
uh,
in fact, one of the adjusters resigned today. So
oh,
we
wow.
I got 4 new reassignments. And I used to
Oh,
hear him
wow.
talking. So I'm like, oh God, I hope I don't get the wrong. So yeah,
Yeah, those
those
reassignments are
reassignments,
fun.
they're already upset, and then they have another new adjuster, so they think that they're starting all over again. You
Right,
know, so
right,
you as the adjuster have to just assure them that you are reading the notes and you got a good handle on their claim. And is there anything that new that they can tell you, but you just have
right.
to reassure them that, hey, I got a handle on this.
Yep, and leaving good notes is so important because
It
I've been in
is.
files where I'm like, I don't even know what's going on here because the previous adjuster didn't leave good notes. But I
Right.
always think about, the fact that, these files can be subpoenaed in a court of law if the
Yeah.
insured decides to,
Yeah.
sue or, get their attorney decides to, file a lawsuit. You have to make sure that everything is in that file. So I
Right.
like to keep that in the forefront of my mind, knowing that, okay, if this does have to go in front of a judge, do I have all my ducks in a row here?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And speaking of which, you can also, a lot of times the insureds are so angry that they file a complaint with the DOI, which is
Yes.
the Department of Insurance. So
Yes.
those files need to be in order.
Absolutely. I've even had that happen one time. It was with a denied claim. The
Mhm.
insured did not believe that it should have been a denial, when it
Yeah.
actually, in fact, should have been. But they did end up filing a complaint, and we had to go into a meeting and speak to that denial and get the policy language about why that
Yeah.
claim was denied, and we had to dissect that with the upper management, and it was actually kind of a cool process because that never happened to me before, so I
Right.
enjoyed kind of seeing how that played out. But you kind of don't really want that to happen, but it's going to
Right.
happen regardless when the insureds are upset. And a
Right.
lot of times they don't understand their insurance policy. They just
Right.
think, okay, well, this should be covered. I've been paying insurance for 30 years
For
and
30 years.
this is the first
Exactly.
claim I've ever had. Why would it be denied?
Right.
You
Right.
so
Or another one that we get a lot is all of my neighbors have new roofs.
yeah.
Why are you saying I don't need a new roof?
Yes, absolutely. And some of them they don't there's nothing even wrong with their roof, but because they see all their neighbors getting new roofs, they call a contractor up and say, "Hey, can you come and inspect my roof?" And that contractor just wants money.
Of
So,
course, of
he's gonna
course.
tell you you got everything, wrong. You need a full roof replacement, you need interiors, you need everything, ma'am. This house is
Everything, the whole
destroyed.
works.
you know.
I know, I
Oh
know.
goodness.
Okay, so you mentioned denial, which is really important. Can you just kind of speak on just a little bit about denials and what are some things that could cause a denial?
So lack of coverage, first and foremost, can cause a denial. I've seen a lot of denials, mostly with like water claims, like water intrusion into basements and crawl spaces and things like that. A lot of times when a claim is denied, the policy specifically states why there's no coverage for it. And
Right,
so what I like to do whenever a claim is denied, I like to actually, if the insured doesn't have a copy of their policy, I like to send them a copy of their policy, and I'll tell them, go to this page and let's look at this
Yes,
verbiage together so that we
right,
understand
right,
exactly why this is not being covered by the insurance company. Long-term seepage, which includes like leaks and things like that, that have been going on for 14 days or more, whether the insured knows about it or not. And the policy language will state that,
mhm,
that if you have a leak, whether if it's there or not, if it's going on for more than 14 days, that is considered long term. And a lot of
right,
times they don't like to hear that because, that leak has done a lot of damage and
right,
sometimes they're very expensive to repair.
right,
And, those are the conversations I don't like having.
right,
Especially leaks that are like under the slab and maybe they didn't know about it, but maybe they noticed an increase in the water bill over the
right,
last couple of months and now they do a leak detection test and then they see that, there is in fact a leak. And then you have to give them that bad news. Denials they're not my favorite thing, of course, but you have to go by what the policy says. And unfortunately,
right.
a lot of people do not read their policies. And I
They
always
don't.
encourage my insureds, now that this has happened, I want you to read your policy and I want you to understand what coverages you do have just to avoid a situation like this in the future.
Right. I just had a few actually where their deductible is 10% of their coverage a dwelling. So
Ooh,
blew
that's
my
high.
mind. One was $47,000 for a
Oh,
deductible.
wow.
He was so upset, and
Yeah,
and rightly so, but they don't understand that they pick that coverage.
that
They
policy,
pick
yeah,
those percent. The higher their deductible is, the lower the premium.
right.
So they
They're
make
trying to
those decisions.
save, but they're actually end up paying in the long
Paying,
run.
yeah, or being, not able to even meet their deductible. So,
Right,
yeah. So I always say, now that we've had this conversation, make sure that you make some changes, in your
right.
policy. I mean, I hate it happens, but they have, as consumers, you have to know what you have.
Yeah. And I
So,
even told my mom because she had an issue with her roof. I'm like, well, send me a copy of the policy. Let me read it. Let
yes.
me see what your coverages
Oh,
are. Because I don't want you to end up in a situation where,
right.
you're filing this claim and then it gets denied and then your premium increases or something like that.
Absolutely.
Send me that policy so I can help you dissect that and then help her understand it, you
Right.
know, because it's the elderly when I'm dealing with them, they have my heart.
Oh my God, my heart too. Oh
Oh,
my
goodness.
God.
It's
Yeah.
horrible. So, and a lot of times, they're I hear them say all the time, I've had this policy for 40 years. This is the first time I filed a claim and, why can't I be covered? You know,
Right.
they don't
And
understand and they
right.
don't
And
have
I was gonna say I also want to protect them from some of these
yeah.
contractors. They take
Oh
such
goodness.
advantage of them, you
Yeah,
know.
I had one contractor who was threatening to put a lien on the insured's home because, we weren't paying fast enough. And, I had to call the contractor and let him know, we're working on getting this approved. Can you please stop threatening the insured, with
Sure,
the lien because that's
absolutely.
it's a very uncomfortable situation and he
Right.
understood, but a lot of times they're just out for money, especially in Florida. That's one greedy state. They're really out for money in Florida. It's horrible.
So let's switch gears just a little here. I wanted to ask you, how can we learn to budget or manage our funds while in between deployments? I hear that a lot from adjusters, new and experience where they have these long laps in between deployments.
Right.
So do you have any suggestions on that?
So the first thing that I would say do is when you're budgeting, try to put as much money to the side as possible. And I know that that's easier said than done, but I can tell you what I did with my first deployment when I was making great money during that deployment. I paid off as much debt as I possibly could
Mhm.
while, to try to lower my monthly bills. And I would still try to put aside every paycheck at least 150 to $250. If I could do more, I would put aside more. And then I like to do I don't know if you ever heard of the envelope trick,
Yes.
where I take 100 envelopes and I label them 1 to 100. And
Mhm.
then every week I will pull a random envelope and I will just put whatever number is on that envelope inside of that envelope. So if I pulled 30, I would put $30 in that envelope. And
Mhm.
that was a foolproof way for me to just save money, period. Because you want to try to save something, and I understand that it's not always feasible for everybody, but any little bit that you can save will help.
It
And
will.
so that's definitely something that I do every deployment
Mm.
because you never know when it's going to end. I
Right.
mean, once with this job, you could work yourself out of a job,
And and that's the
closing these
norm.
claims.
That right. And
Yeah,
to be
so
honest, although it sounds, probably a crazy thing you want to, but you really want to make those insureds whole again. And by
yeah,
making them whole, that decreases the claim volume. So, you
exactly.
know,
Yeah, you can work yourself out of a job. And so, and then sometimes the carriers, they will even pull the claims back in-house. I've had that happen
they do
on a
that a
deployment
lot.
before. Yeah, they will, once you get down to a certain number, they'll say, oh, well, we could, our in-house folks can work these claims, and they'll pull all the claims, and then the deployment's over that day, and you
Right,
hadn't prepared for that.
right,
So it's best to try to put aside whatever you can. It really depends on how much you're getting paid in that deployment, if that's going to be something that's even feasible for a person to do. What
right.
was great was that my husband and I, we actually were able to get on the same deployment. So we're able to kind of,
Oh,
yeah, so we're able to budget in a way that we were kind of doing double time,
right,
and that deployment ended for us both on the same day as well. So we were able to have that little nest egg in order to
right.
carry us, because I think that deployment ended in I think November or December, and then we didn't have another one until March.
Okay.
So there was 3 months,
Mhm.
that we were able to live off of what we had put to the side.
Right, right.
So until that next appointment came through. So
Do you have any like other income streams that you and your husband, so in between those deployments, maybe you have other
yeah.
freelance work or anything like that?
Yes, so I actually do braids and I do sister locks as well. I have sister locks, and so
Okay.
I took a course for that,
Mhm.
and I have clients that I do on the weekends as well to help me, bring in extra money while I'm on a deployment. And I
Right,
don't touch that money at all. I just put that directly into my savings.
right.
But it's good to kind of have a side hustle. I make t-shirts,
Absolutely. Yes, I love
and
that.
yeah,
Yes.
and different things like that, because I love to craft. And so when I'm working, my deployment's full time, I don't really have as much time for that. But if, I still have clients that will call me for a birthday party and say, hey, Shuantel, can you make me 30 t-shirts for this birthday party?
Nice.
And then I can, make some extra money on the side doing that. So I also have a work from home call center. I started that when I was 19.
Ah,
And I hire people to work from home, to
right.
work different clients like Airbnb, Comcast, and basically I used to be a virtual instructor before I was an adjuster. And
Okay.
so I would literally teach people how to work from home. But once I didn't have a passion for it the way that I have a passion for adjusting.
Right.
And so now I just kind of hire people to work from home. And
Mhm.
so from doing that, I take a percentage of their paycheck every
Right.
time
Yeah.
they get paid. So that money, I don't have to touch that either. So
That's awesome. My daughter, one of my daughters, um, she have all of my kids have side hustles or other income streams, and she also have a virtual call center, and she
Yeah,
use the Arise platform.
exactly. That's the platform that I started with. Yep,
Yeah,
Arise.
so yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
And I think I saw one of your daughters, doesn't she make treats?
She does. She just started. She work in mental health,
Okay.
and so she just started making treats because
Yeah.
we have a catering business, just a small
Oh,
catering business
awesome.
that we do as a family-owned business, and so she started just doing treats for the one event, which was my niece's baby shower, and people just started asking her to do,
Wow.
and now
I
she
love
knows.
that.
Yeah, and then it just kind of takes her mind because her industry is so
Stressful.
stressful working with people that have mental health issues. So she's on the
Yeah.
phone with them all day long. She worked from home, so that's kind of her escape or her
That can
fun
be
thing.
heavy,
Yeah,
especially doing that type of work at home. You're not really getting an escape from your job because,
exactly. It's
work is at home with you. So that's a
fine.
great little escape that she can have to
Yeah.
take her mind off of that. So that's
Absolutely. So
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So, oh, this is such a fun conversation. Tell me, what are some challenges that you face as an independent claims adjuster, and how do you overcome these challenges?
So some challenges that I've faced is bad management. Sometimes not having someone readily available to go to. I remember one time I worked for a carrier and the training was so bad that I wanted to quit. And I went to my not my direct manager, but her manager, and I let her know, I've been working claims for a while, but what is the real process here,
Mhm.
that you want me to do in order to be successful? And then, I expressed my concerns to her and she paired me up with another lady. And I mean, when I tell you this lady was so amazing, she had me like ready to go in a couple of days.
Awesome.
And other challenges could be, like I said, changing of processes in the middle of once you got one process down, they might be coming to hit you with something else. And working with FIGA, a lot of times, we don't have a really high authority. So having to, wait to
Oh,
get
yeah.
authority approved and things like that because it's not always the quickest process.
Right.
And, dealing with attorneys can be challenging
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're not adjusters, so they can't do our job, but they think that they can. So
Right. And they think they know our job.
right. And even the public adjusters, dealing with them sometimes can be a nightmare because, you'll have one estimate that says one thing and then you get an estimate from a public adjuster that's like 150,000 and you're like, "Okay, well mine is 30,000. So why are we so far apart here?"
Oh my God, they add so much fat to that.
And then it's like, "Okay,
I
can
was
we try to figure
laughing.
this out?" And then,
One time
having
I
to
was
go to
laughing so
appraisal.
I'm sorry. One time I was laughing so bad because I mean, like he had management fees in there and just it just didn't make any
Just
sense.
fluffing it up, And it's just like, what is this supervision? We don't pay for supervision, Like, what is going on here? So, you really have to dissect those
You
estimates
do.
and then then when you can't reach a happy medium, then they want to go to appraisal. And then the
Right, right,
appraisal, will hold up the claim even
right.
more. And it'll take sometimes months. And then if they have to get an umpire involved, like I'm dealing with one now, I mean, I've been dealing with this appraisal for about 6 months now,
Wow.
and it's not fair to the insured because they've already been waiting for so long, and now we're pushing it out even more. But a lot of times they're just greedy because the public adjusters, they get a percentage of whatever that claim value is.
Right. And see, the insured don't realize that.
Right.
It's based on that dollar number of that claim, you
Yeah.
know, of that
And a
estimate.
lot of them don't even read the contract
Right,
with the public
exactly.
adjuster.
I know.
So, you got these public adjusters, they're trying to, escalate and inflate these estimates to get more money, squeeze as much as they can out of the insurance company. And, I'm dealing with a claim right now where the insured, her public adjuster stopped responding to me. So she called me directly and said, can we settle this for 80,000? So I said, you know what? That sounds like a good deal to me. Let me, send this up. But then her public adjuster was like, no, we need closer to 100. And I'm like, no, because the insurance said her contractor can do it for this. So why are you asking for,
Right,
100,000? They're
right.
just trying to get as much money as
Much as
possible
they
for their
can.
fees.
Exactly.
And, that can definitely be challenging, especially when you have an overzealous, public adjuster or an attorney. And then, the insured is, she's hired these people to represent her, but now she wants to come in and, do
Get rid of
negotiations. And it's like,
right,
you know, and
right,
then when they have an attorney that, and once you have an attorney, I can't talk to you at all. But
right.
sometimes the insured, they still want to call you. And I'm
And
like,
they get upset when we say, unfortunately, I can't talk to you now. I have to talk to
yeah.
your attorney,
Yeah,
and so,
absolutely. And sometimes you have these attorneys, their workloads are crazy too. So,
mhm,
I've been trying to get in contact with one attorney for about a month now, and
wow,
they won't even respond to me. So it's, at that point, the insured's calling me, having the same issue with her attorney. And I'm like, I will try to reach them again, but I can't discuss the claim with you,
right.
So
What do you
those are some
normally do?
challenges that
Mhm.
I've encountered.
What do you do in that case when the file is active and open, but you can't, you're not able to communicate? Do you close it, or, I know you're gonna send out letters,
Yes.
you know,
I'll send a 10-day letter, like a 10-day notice to close, and let them know all the dates that I've contacted them, every phone call that I've made, every email
right,
that I've sent, and I'll list the dates. And that's why it's important to keep good notes so that you know exactly when you reached out to these people.
right,
It's in the file, and then I have justification to back up, why I'm going to close this claim. And I'll let them know, due to non-communication or
right,
failure to pursue this matter, I'm going to have to close this file because I haven't been able to reach you.
right,
And,
right,
and I'll send out a letter at that point to the insured as well as the law office.
right.
And once I send that out, then oh, everybody's calling me. My phone's blowing up off the hook, they're like, keep this file open, they want to get paid too. So
Right, right. That is so funny.
yep.
You had mentioned appraisal. Do you work, I mean, I know that's usually third party. Do you do appraising? Do you do that, or there's a different department that handles the appraisals?
So I do that as well. So I will
Oh, so you
yeah, I will
do.
contact our appraiser. Like there's several different appraisers based on the location of where the insured is that we
Mhm.
deal with.
Oh,
So I'll pull up the list to see what appraiser is in that area, and then I will contact that appraiser directly, send
okay.
them, whatever estimates and everything that we already have, and ask them for the appraisal date. They will contact the attorney's office or the public adjuster or the insured and let them know that this has been set for appraisal,
Mhm.
and they will coordinate, when that appraisal will actually take place.
Right.
And then they'll send me back that report. Sometimes if they can't come to an agreement, then it will have to go to umpire, and then they'll have to have an umpire panel review where a third party will step in to basically make that final decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have to give them access to any of your notes, or how involved are you, or once you make the connection, you just let the process roll out?
So mostly what I'll do is I'll send them a copy of the policy,
Mhm.
and I'll send them any estimates, any photos, any relevant documentation to the file, the everybody's contact information, the insured, public adjuster, attorney. And if they need anything additional, they can contact me, but they don't have access to my actual file. But if they have any questions or concerns, of course, I provide them with whatever information they need, policy limits and all that stuff.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about like tools and software, Xactimate. What tools and softwares do you use and recommend for new adjusters? And can you talk a little bit about the importance of Exactimate?
So as a desk adjuster, Xactimate is more so for the field. I found I haven't really use Xactimate too much. I use Exact Analysis more so when they send the reports back, but I have used Symbility and created estimates in Symbility.
Okay, so you
Um,
use Stability. Okay, okay.
yeah, so I'll sketch a roof, different things like that. And stability, fences were a big thing. People fences always getting knocked over,
Right, right,
and sketching bathrooms and things like that. So I've used stability in that aspect. When it comes to exact, I've used exact analysis. When the field adjuster will go out and do the scoping, they'll send back the report in
right.
exact analysis, and I will use that software to communicate with the contractors and things like that.
Okay,
On this deployment, I don't really use any estimating software because we will contract our estimates out. So whenever I need a field adjuster, I
mhm,
just send them a request and then they'll go out and do the inspection. So they'll use whatever software they use, and then they'll send me back that report with their invoice fee, their activity log, and then I'll pay their invoice and, then I'll look at whatever estimate they sent me back. Kind of we're using some kind of antiquated software right now. So I don't think that any other firms really use this software. But, I know that a lot of people use Guidewire and things
yeah,
like that, and so I have used that platform, and that's a really user-friendly platform,
it
and
is.
Lumen, I've done that with Liberty Mutual,
Mhm,
and so, I've used Symbility with Liberty Mutual and things like that, so it really just the software that you use is gonna depend on the deployment that you're on
true.
because
The carrier.
a
Mhm.
lot of these firms, they're gonna, like I said, I'm using some antiquated software. You probably never even heard of it before. It's called Lightspeed and ImageRight.
Oh,
Yeah, and ImageRight is basically where all of our documents go, and Lightspeed is where we actually that's our claim management system where we can locate all of our files.
okay, okay.
But yeah, other than that, the firm will let you know what software you're going to use, and hopefully they'll give you some training in it if you don't have any. But
Right,
I'm a very hands-on person. Like if I know that a firm is using a certain software, I'm going to go out and figure out how to use that software.
right,
If I have
right,
to go on YouTube, if I have to go on
right,
Udemy, if I got to pay somebody to, teach me how to use it, I'm not going to sit there and wait on any manager or anybody to tell me how to use this software. I'm going to figure it out.
right, right.
Yeah, you have to be very hands-on and take initiative. I think they really like to
Absolutely,
see when you take initiative in this
absolutely.
industry.
Absolutely. How do you handle difficult insureds or situations during the claims process? And not necessarily insureds, it can be a contractor or like you said, a public adjuster.
Yeah. For me, I don't take anything personally. I've been in
Mhm.
customer so I mean, my very first job, I worked at American Express as a disputes analyst, and so I've been dealing with angry people for a long time. So, I mean, I was dealing with people with credit cards, and they were disputing charges $10,000 plus, so they were mad.
Right.
So I think that having a good customer service background definitely helps with kind of lightening the blow when it comes to dealing with irate or upset insureds, attorneys, public adjusters. My main thing is letting them know that we're all on the same team. Our
Right.
goal here is to indemnify the insured, and let's work together, in a harmonious and amicable fashion in order to get that completed. I think that once you kind of set that expectation, you can kind of get anybody on your side because a lot of times the attorneys are upset because, like I said, these files are old and oh, I've been trying to get in contact with so and so. Well, that adjuster is no longer here. I do apologize for that, but I'm ready to take over and I can help you get this thing to the next level. What do you need from me in order to, push this along?
Mhm.
Also dealing with upset insureds because I mean I've had some upset insureds. But it's all in how you handle them with care. You listen, you be empathetic towards their
Right.
situation. I like to think
Absolutely.
about, what if this was my mother? What if this was my grandmother,
Right.
going through this situation? How would I want them to be treated?
Absolutely.
And, I'm a naturally empathetic person. I put myself in their shoes. I mean,
Me too. Me
I
too.
had one claim where this husband and wife, they were visiting the south of France, visiting his family,
Mhm.
and a pipe burst in their house. They were gone for 2 weeks, and this pipe was flooded their entire home. And he was an attorney, so they lived in a mansion,
Oh
and
my.
their entire home was destroyed when they came home, and the wife was going through cancer.
Oh
You know,
God.
and so it was just one thing after the next. All of their contents, everything, their personal belongings, had whatever was salvageable had to go into storage. By the
Right.
time this was a $400,000 claim, all of their stuff was destroyed. I mean, I paid a $50,000 storage bill because their stuff had been in storage for 3 years,
Oh my goodness.
so just putting yourself in their shoes. And after everything was done, the husband and the wife, they emailed me and they said, "Is there somebody that I can talk to just thank you for all of your hard work, and
Wow.
how easy you made this process for us, because my wife got sick, and all these bad things were happening, but you were able to help us get through this process without adding more fuel to the fire."
Wow.
You know, when
That
you're
means a
dealing with people
lot.
that have lost everything, you have
Right.
to really understand that, they've lost memories, you know,
Right.
they've
Right.
lost photos, they've lost,
Mm.
baby clothing that they might have been saving, from their when their children were babies,
Right.
things that they
Exactly.
can't get back. And I think it's important to just have that in your mind so that you don't take anything personally. If they're yelling at you, just let them vent, and then
Right.
once they're
Right.
done, then you go ahead and interject. Don't allow yourself to be abused, but at the same time,
Right.
understand where they're coming from,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. Empathy is so important in our industry, in our
Oh,
roles,
yeah.
you
And a
know.
lot of adjusters don't have it. I
Right.
think a lot of adjusters I think just humans in general have become disconnected from empathy just because of social media. We see so much horrible stuff 24/7 all the time, and so we
Right.
we kind of become disassociated with that empathetic spirit. But we need to remember, this could happen to us as well, and how
Right.
would we want to be
Exactly.
treated in that situation? So
Exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about your background. I noticed that you are working on an associate in claims. Is it associate in claims designation?
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So the associate in claims designation is just basically letting potential employers know, hey, I went and did some extensive research and education in claims, and it kind of sets you apart from, other adjusters that may or may not have that designation.
Right.
And if you ever have been to the Institute's website, there's a lot of different insurance designations there. And I'm actually
I've been
going to
there.
start working. Yeah, I'm actually going to
Mhm.
start working on my CPCU as well, which
Mhm.
is the underwriter
Right, right.
designation, and that is basically the cream of the crop, I would say,
Mhm.
of insurance designations in this
Mm.
area, because a lot of people don't have it. I think about 6% of adjusters actually have it.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot
That's
of people
interesting.
don't have it, and it helps you kind of stand out and keep you employed in this industry with such an influx of people coming in. It helps you just have a very deeper understanding of everything insurance, as it pertains to property, liability, auto. It gives you
Right.
that deep understanding, so it kind of helps set you apart. And I've been enjoying it a lot. Right now, I'm actually working on my ethics course,
Mhm.
and ethics is really big because you have to be ethical when you're dealing with these things. There's so much fraud. Um,
Right, right,
yeah,
right,
there's so much fraud in this industry, and a lot of times you may think you're doing the right thing and you're really not. So
right,
it just gives you a different perspective and a deeper knowledge and understanding as it pertains to insurance. And so I think that it's great for any adjuster. The associate in claims is kind of more the entry level. So any new adjusters that are coming in, it would be great for them to go after that designation because I mean, I learned so much just in one course. I mean,
Right,
about legal stuff and just, the course is so extensive. A lot of stuff I already know just from me working in the industry, but it helps kind of solidify that knowledge
right,
and
right.
it'll help you stand out as well. So, and they also have an associate in claims management designation. So if
Mhm.
you get that one, then you be a shoo-in for any management position as well. So,
Okay, like team lead or
yep, team
yeah, okay.
lead,
Mhm.
claims manager,
Right, right.
anything like that. And they consider that to be like a bachelor's degree in insurance, like the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in insurance.
Okay.
And then the
Mhm.
CPCU is the what they consider that to be like a master's degree
Oh,
in the
wow.
in
Interesting.
insurance. So yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I've been on that website. I do a lot of research,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm kind of interested in that as well. So I'm gonna look into it. So you've kind of
yeah.
inspired me.
Yeah, and if you can find a company that that you're working with that will pay for it, that's even better because 'cause they're not
Oh,
cheap. So
yes,
yeah.
I've seen that those hours are, kind of pricey, but I'm sure it's worth it.
Oh
If
yeah.
you want to be in this industry and, set yourself apart, like you said, from
Yeah.
other adjusters.
And it also gives you continuing education credit as well. So
Oh, I
that's
didn't
another
know
plus.
that. That's
Yep, you
nice.
can
That's
use
good to
that.
know.
Yep.
That's good to know. Then I also saw that you were one of your goals is to get into risk management. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk just a little bit about that?
So the path that I'm taking for my CPCU is called the ARM to CPCU path, and it gives you the Associate in Risk Management designation
Oh,
and the CPCU. So I'm very interested in underwriting. I'm very interested in, assessing risk and things like that. And so
mhm.
once you get into that industry, I'm a very technical person because I'm used to dealing with a lot of different systems and that gives you the ability to kind of coordinate with a lot of other departments and kind of understand the industry as a whole. So when you're getting into the risk management portion of it, you're really understanding how the insurance companies are coming up with the policies, how they assess if a insured is going to be a good, you know, candidate to take on to insure because not every insured gets insurance with the company that they try to get it with. A lot of times their risk is too high. And so the insurance company or the underwriting department will not give them a policy. And it
Right,
kind of helps you understand all of those different nuances behind the scenes. I
right,
think that as the adjusters, we're kind of on the front lines, we're
right.
kind
We
of
are.
yeah, we're on
Mhm.
the front lines, and so we're assessing the claim for the value to see if, see what the payout is going to be to indemnify the insured. But
Right,
at the same time, there's so much going on in the background that we don't even know about.
right,
How these policies are created,
right.
why there's certain verbiage. And I think for me, I became interested in that when I started dissecting a policy, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand, I don't understand what I'm reading here, and trying to really understand how they come up with that verbiage,
Right,
and a lot of
right,
times I've even seen claims managers, they don't know. They'll have to get in contact with underwriting or the legal department to help
right,
them understand that jargon,
right, right,
and so I don't expect the layperson like, my mom or, my sister or just any regular person that has a policy to really be able to understand that policy.
right,
And I've had insurers say that to me. I asked them, well, have you read your policy? They're like, yeah, I have, but I don't understand it. You
right,
know, and
right.
my job as an adjuster is not really to dissect that policy with them. It's really just to tell them, well, this is what's covered and what's not covered.
Absolutely. Right.
So it helps give you that deeper understanding, which is what I'm very interested in because I was actually wanting to go to school for law at one point,
Uh-huh.
and I just have an analytical mind,
Uh-huh.
so that was more so my interest in that.
Well, that is so interesting. Then I also one last question, and what advice would you give to new adjusters?
So for my new adjusters, let me see, because I took a little bit of notes here. Um, so what I would say to my new adjusters is definitely if this is something that you want to make a career out of, you're going to learn from every deployment that you go on.
Mhm.
You're always learning.
Right,
I'm still learning and I've been doing this for a while now, but you're never going to know everything.
right.
Especially, I mean, I work mostly property and liability.
Mhm.
I know nothing about auto. I know nothing about
Right,
workers' compensation. You know, there's
right.
so many different areas that you can get into. What I think the main thing is what I've learned about this industry is it's not what you know, it's who you know. So
Yeah,
don't
networking.
burn bridges. You know, you
Absolutely.
meet good people, keep in contact with them. You never know, they might be the key to your next deployment, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, take good notes. Every deployment that you go on, take good notes. I have a OneNote document that every time I get some new information, I'm putting it on my OneNote, you know, because
Right,
I
yeah,
want to be, I don't know when that situation is going to come up again. You
right,
know, read your policy. If you have some downtime, read that policy,
right,
understand it, you
right,
know, understand what appraisal is, understand what mediation is, understand the policies and procedures of, you know, the company that you're working for, you
right,
know. And a lot of these companies, they have really extensive knowledge bases. Do additional research, learn the different materials that go into, you know, flooring and, you know,
right,
cabinetry, you know, learn those things.
right.
And, you know, just make sure that when you do get a deployment, that you're documenting everything. Your notes are going to tell that story
Yes,
because if
yes.
anybody needs to come behind you, they're going to want to be able to take one glance at that file and know exactly what's going
What to
on.
do. Exactly,
Yep.
exactly.
And one more thing that I like to do is, because like I said, you can get overwhelmed with the amount of claim volume that you actually have, especially if you're on a deployment where you're getting daily claims. So you're getting like 4 or 5 new claims a day, and you're like, okay, well, I got these other 50 claims over here.
That's me right
Right,
now.
right. And now you just threw another five on me, and you know,
Right,
so, you know, use that Excel sheet. When I get overwhelmed, I will literally go, I will just take a claim number. I will start from the top of that Excel sheet and I will take that claim number and I will put that in my management system and I will look at that file and see what do I need to do to move this claim to the next
right,
step. You
right,
know, and I'll
right,
put a little file review note on there for myself so I know exactly what needs to happen with
right.
that file to make sure that I'm pushing it towards closure. Because if your
Absolutely.
manager ever comes behind you and they're like, well, what's going on with this file? And you don't know, you know, that's
Not
not going to
good.
look good on
Yeah,
you.
not good.
You know? So organization is key and just be confident in yourself. You know, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but you're not going to know everything when you go in. So just make
Right,
sure that, you know, you are staying on your P's and Q's, asking
right.
those good
Absolutely.
questions and, you know, just making sure that you're doing the right thing every day. If you're on a desk appointment, be at your desk. Don't be gallivanting around town, you know, with your laptop thinking that, hey, nobody's going to know what's going on. No, be at your desk and do your job. That's
And they're
really,
gonna know because,
yeah.
your files are gonna tell the story,
Yep,
so,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's been so wonderful. I appreciate you so much. You've just given us so much information, and it's been so wonderful. I appreciate